This isn't just about ego, it's about power, it's about how the world sees you, and more dangerously, how you see yourself. So today, we go into the mind of Machiavelli to learn how to kill disrespect. Before it kills you, you've been taught to be kind, to be soft-spoken, to turn the other cheek. And while there's grace in that philosophy, there is also danger, because when kindness is offered in a world that only respects strength, it becomes a form of currency no one values. It becomes invisible. You become invisible. This is where Machiavelli offers his brutal clarity. He didn't write The Prince for saints. He wrote it for survivors, for those standing at the edge of betrayal, powerless but hungry for understanding. He observed a world where good men were devoured, not because they lacked virtue, but because they lacked strategy. He wrote, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you must choose." But this doesn't mean to become cruel. It means to become undeniable. Fear, in Machiavelli's world, was never about violence. It was about boundaries. It was about commanding a presence so firm, so clear, that people think twice before crossing you. Now let's bring this to the modern world. You don't rule a kingdom, but you do rule your time, your space, your energy. And just like a ruler, if you don't guard your gates, they will be trampled. Think of respect like a mirror. It reflects only what you show it. If you stand tall, it reflects dignity. If you bow too quickly, it reflects something lesser, and people respond accordingly. Disrespect often comes disguised as casual, a joke at your expense, a compliment laced with condescension, a decision made without consulting you, and we brush it off. We laugh along, we stay silent, because we fear the confrontation, or worse, we doubt we're worthy of more. But every time you accept less, you train others to offer less. Not because they're evil, but because human nature is opportunistic. We test boundaries, often without knowing. And when we find no resistance, we push further. Machiavelli's lion and fox are not just metaphors for rulers. They are roles we must all embody in daily life. The fox sees the intentions beneath the words. It recognizes the trap of false praise. Limit access. You stop sharing pieces of yourself with those who treat them carelessly. You don't beg for respect. You remove yourself until it becomes the only option. Power, in its purest form, is quiet. It is the calm that unnerves, the stillness that commands attention. When you know who you are, when you refuse to be disrespected, your silence becomes a language. Machiavelli understood the psychology of power deeply. He knew that people respond not to your inner world, but to the signal you send. Confidence, value, strength. These are not things you speak. They are things you embody. And in today's world, where so many are desperate to be liked, where validation is chased like currency, true self-respect has become rare. Rare things are valuable, and valuable things are treated differently. So how do you begin to shift this dynamic? You start by redefining kindness. True kindness does not mean tolerating mistreatment. It means choosing when and whom to offer it to. It means being generous, but not naive, compassionate, but not exploitable. Machiavelli would tell you, your value rises the moment you stop trying to prove it, the moment you stop explaining your worth. Stop over-apologizing. Stop shrinking to keep others comfortable. Because when you are grounded in your own dignity, you no longer need to chase external confirmation. People begin to feel your energy differently. They speak more carefully. They listen more closely. Because you are not seeking approval. You are commanding recognition. Disrespect dies in the face of unwavering self-respect. That's art, not to retaliate with equal harm, but to outgrow the space where disrespect lives, to rise beyond it, to let your presence become a standard, one that others must meet or lose access to. This is not arrogance. This is alignment. Alignment with the truth that your time is sacred. Your voice is valuable. Your heart is not a public park for careless feet. So stop explaining the impact of their words. Stop offering second chances to those who never earned the first. Stop confusing your silence with strength when it's actually fear in disguise. Instead, remember what Machiavelli understood so well: the world is not fair, but it is predictable. And those who understand human behavior, who learn the subtle laws of power, can can move through life with precision and peace. That doesn't mean playing games. It means playing wisely, knowing when to speak, when to step back, when to cut ties not with anger, but with grace. Because the ultimate act of power is not retaliation, it is removal. And as you begin to live this way, you'll notice something extraordinary. The world will shift around you. People will rise to meet the standard you now embody, or they will fall away. Either way, you win. This is how you kill disrespect. By mastering the dance of the lion and the fox. By becoming the kind of person whose silence feels louder than another's shouting. By remembering that the first person who must never disrespect you is you. And now, we step into the deeper mirror, into the space where these ideas leave the page and step into your real, lived experience. Where we ask you, how does this philosophy breathe in your daily life? What does it look like when applied to your heart, your home, your voice? Let us reflect. Let us go deeper still. You've heard the lesson. The lion, the fox. The quiet strength that demands respect without ever asking for it. You've understood how tolerance of disrespect, however small or polite, becomes an invitation for more. But understanding it intellectually is not enough. The real transformation begins when this idea crawls off the page and walks into your life, into your relationships, into the rooms you sit in, into the mirror you stand before. Because it is in real life, not in theory, where the test is hardest. How do you kill disrespect when it comes from the people closest to you? What do you do when it comes from the one you love? From the family you cannot escape, from the friend you've known for years. It's easy to walk away from strangers. Harder when the wound wears a familiar face, because part of you still wants to be seen, to be chosen, to be understood. And that's the trap, that hope, that one day they'll change, or that your patience will teach them your value, is the lie that keeps you in the cycle. Machiavelli understood that sentimentality, when placed above sovereignty, destroys rulers, and it destroys people too. The truth is this disrespect doesn't always come in screams. Sometimes it comes in forgetfulness, in lack of acknowledgement, in being the last to be considered, the first to be blamed. And you may tell yourself, it's not intentional, but intention is not the measure, impact is. If someone repeatedly steps on your boundaries, knowingly or unknowingly, they are still doing damage. A cut is still a cut, even if the blade didn't mean to fall. This is where most people falter. They wait for the disrespect to become undeniable. They wait for it to scream, but by then, it's too late. By then, your self-worth has already been corroded. Not shattered, but slowly dissolved, drip by drip, moment by moment. So how do you act earlier? How do you see the signs when they are still small? You learn to listen to the silence between moments, to how people make you feel when you leave their presence. Are you lighter or heavier? Do you feel more like yourself or less? The world rarely disrespects you suddenly. It does so subtly. It tests your edges and waits to see if you flinch. And if you don't respond, it carves deeper, not out of malice, but because you taught it that your edges were suggestions, not rules. Now imagine you lived differently. Imagine every boundary you had was rooted not in fear, but in love for yourself. Imagine you corrected disrespect not with anger, but with clarity. Imagine you left places not because they rejected you, but because you rejected the version of yourself that had to beg for worth. This is where philosophy meets self-respect, and where self-respect becomes not an emotion, but a practice. Every time you choose not to explain your boundaries, you strengthen them. Every time you walk away from people who do not listen, you teach your soul it matters. Every time you stop negotiating your dignity for temporary peace, you become the ruler of your own life. And make no mistake, you are always training the world. With every yes, every no, every silence, you are teaching them what you allow. And more importantly, you are teaching yourself. Machiavelli understood this as well as any psychologist ever could. He knew that the mind justifies what the heart tolerates. That people stay in places where they are slowly destroyed because they've built narratives around it. They say, this is love, this is family, this is loyalty. But is loyalty still a virtue when it costs you your self-respect? When your identity must shrink to stay inside a room, You must ask yourself, is the room sacred? Or is it a prison dressed in nostalgia? The lion does not dwell in cages, and the fox does not return to snares. This is what it means to reflect, to truly look at your life and ask, where am I tolerating what should have ended long ago? Who am I allowing to speak to me in tones I would never accept from a stranger? And why? Often, the answer is rooted in our deepest fear, not of confrontation, but of abandonment. We fear that if we speak up, they will leave. That if we assert ourselves, we will be alone. But the truth is far more liberating. The people who disappear when you begin to respect yourself are the very ones who benefited from your disrespect. And their absence is not a loss. It is a clearing. The clearing where real respect can grow, where new people can arrive, ones who don't flinch when you are firm, who doesn't punish you for having a spine, who doesn't confuse your boundaries for rejection. These people exist, but they only find you when you become someone who no longer hides in people pleasing, when you become someone who would rather be alone than surrounded by those who diminish you. This is the greatest form of strength, not loud, not aggressive, but the kind of stillness that cannot be shaken, a self-respect that is not performance, but essence. And in this way, Machiavelli's wisdom becomes something personal, not just about states and rulers, but about the state of your inner kingdom. Are you ruling with intention? Or are you letting others make laws in your territory? Are you defending your crown? Or letting it fall to the ground each time someone disapproves? These are not abstract questions. They are the daily decisions that shape your identity. Each time you let someone speak over you, each time you minimize your feelings to avoid discomfort, each time you smile through disrespect, you are giving away a brick from the foundation of your castle. But the beautiful truth is you can rebuild. Any moment, any day, you can decide now, here in this breath, that disrespect has no home in your life, not because you're better than others, but because you've remembered your own value. You can be kind and clear. You can be loving and firm. You can be soft without being walked on, and powerful without being cruel. This is the paradox of true strength, and the world respects it more than you know, because people may not always like you when you change, but they will feel it, they will adjust, or they will vanish, and both outcomes are victories. So, take a moment now and let it settle in. You do not have to tolerate anything that makes your soul shrink. You are not here to be understood by everyone. You are here to honor your dignity, even if no one claps for it. Disrespect ends where self-reverence begins, and this reverence is not taught by the world, it is claimed, one brave choice at a time. Now we arrive at the final breath of this journey, the closing thought. The final mirror held up not to others, but to yourself. Because in the end, how you kill disrespect is not about controlling the world, but about remembering who you are in it. Let's close with the truth your soul already knows. You've walked through the silence, felt the sting of the unseen insult, learned to name it, disrespect. And now, you stand on the other side of that awareness, holding a deeper truth. Not a truth spoken by others, but one remembered in the quiet moments, when no one else is watching, when it's just you, and the echo of your worth. This final moment is not a grand ending, but a return to something you were always meant to know. You do not owe your dignity to anyone. It was never a gift to be earned. It was never a favor someone else could give you. It was your inheritance, something ancient and sovereign, buried beneath years of apology, layers of fear, and the habit of shrinking so others could feel taller. You see, killing disrespect is not about fighting the world. It's about ceasing the inner war between who you are and who you've been pretending to be just to be accepted. Machiavelli, often misread as a prophet of cruelty, was instead a master of clarity. He never demanded ruthlessness. He demanded self-respect that does not beg. He asked you to understand this. If you do not command respect, you will be ruled by those who do. And it begins with small moments. Moments that look ordinary on the surface, but decide the course of your life. Moments when you choose to remain silent, because your voice trembled. Moments when you laughed with them, even though you were the punchline. Moments when you stayed, knowing deep down, you were already gone. But now, you're learning to return to yourself, to those of you that know better, to the you that doesn't have to shout to be heard, but no longer whispers to be tolerated. You return by remembering that self-respect is not pride, it's peaceful. Not arrogance, but alignment. It is choosing not to chase people, places, or titles that require you to abandon your value just to feel seen. The killing of disrespect begins and ends within. It dies the moment you decide, I will no longer confuse tolerance with virtue. I will no longer trade silence for survival. I will no longer wear humility like a leash. There is a kind of love the world fears, and it's not the loud, dramatic kind. It's the quiet, unwavering love you give to yourself when you walk away from what hurts, without bitterness, without drama, without needing anyone to understand. Because the truth is, you don't need them to understand. You only need to understand yourself. The world can misunderstand you. They can label your standards as ego, your solitude as arrogance, your boundaries as rejection. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them tell stories about your distance. Because none of it matters when you know the truth. You are not cruel. You are clear. This clarity is your revolution. This is how you protect the kingdom of your soul. Machiavelli said that a ruler must learn how not to be good when goodness becomes the source of their destruction. In other words, there are moments in life when your survival demands defiance, when your peace demands detachment, when your dignity demands the courage to stop being liked and start being respected. And respect, real respect, does not come from perfection. It comes from presence, from walking into a room like you belong, without seeking approval, from looking someone in the eyes and saying no without guilt, from letting people leave and refusing to chase those who only valued you when you were convenient. That is how you kill disrespect, not by cutting others down, but by building yourself up, by becoming the kind of person who chooses themselves over and over again without apology. Not because you think you're better than anyone, but because you finally understand no one else gets to decide what you're worth. Not your past, not their opinions, not their silence. This is your crown. You don't have to wear it for them to see it. You wear it because it was always yours. The world will adjust, or it will leave. But either way, you'll stay standing, whole, unshaken, still, and maybe, in time, you'll find others like you. People who speak with depth, who move with integrity, who love without possession, and respect without condition. Because once you raise your standards, your life begins to filter itself. The noise fades, the real remains. So let this be your quiet rebellion. Not with fists, not with fire, but with presence. Calm, unmoved, undeniable. Let your life say what your lips no longer need to. I will not tolerate what wounds me. Let your boundaries be the proof that you have returned to yourself. Let your silence be sacred, not submissive. Let your detachment be love in its highest form. Love for the self you are no longer willing to betray. And when you feel the old habits rise, the urge to explain, to please, to shrink, remember this: there is no honor in staying small for people who never saw your full size to begin with. This is your turning point, not a moment of rage, a moment of remembering. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be powerful, not in the Machiavellian sense of domination, but in the truest sense of self-possession. Power not over others, but over your own time, mind, and soul. Because when you own yourself, no one can offer you a price, and no one can disrespect what refuses to be diminished. So walk forward now, not louder, but deeper. With each step, release the need to be understood. Replace it with the need to be authentic. Choose the silence that builds you, the solitude that heals you, the dignity that protects you. This is how you kill disrespect. Not once, not loudly, but daily, gently, with every boundary you draw, every truth you speak, every part of yourself you finally stop abandoning. This is not the end. It is the beginning of a life that no longer settles. Let them wonder why you change.
Continue making progress, man. It's nonstop.
His own truth. when a man refuses to be swallowed by his own truth, when a man refuses to be swallowed by the crowd, when he chooses his own path of meaning, solitude, and reflection, he breaks the
Pray that you guys figure this out.
society depends on to keep people passive and emotionally.
If you're out there listening, you figure this out.
Women don't fear intelligent men because they're smart. They fear
You got this.
intelligent men because they cannot contain them.
You got
Because
this.
the intelligent man doesn't rely on flattery to be desired. He doesn't need validation to feel masculine. He doesn't play the puppet just to be chosen. He doesn't chase because he sees that most chases are rooted in illusion, not love. And when he does love, he loves with terrifying clarity, not for comfort, but for revelation. That kind of presence, sharp, discerning, existentially honest, is rare. And what is rare is often rejected before it is respected. Kierkegaard wrote, "A conscious man cannot be seduced by applause or emotional chaos. A conscious man is no longer driven by the need to be liked. And when a man stops needing to be liked, he becomes free. And when a man becomes free, he becomes dangerous." Ask yourself, why do you feel misunderstood in every room you enter? Why do you sense people are uneasy around your silence? It's because most people, especially in this attention-driven world, derive their identity from being seen. But the intelligent man, he derives his identity from seeing, and seeing deeply makes others uncomfortable, especially when they are trying to hide. Kierkegaard said, "Life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. And intelligent men live forward, but they are always watching, dissecting, understanding the structure of everything: power, emotion, seduction, fear. So what happens when a man is no longer seduced by the surface, when he stops being enchanted by the games? He becomes unplayable, not because he's cold, but because he's whole. And that wholeness threatens the economy of modern dating, where confusion is currency and emotional unpredictability is mistaken for passion. Kierkegaard knew this. He walked away from the only woman he ever loved, not because he didn't care, but because he did. Because he knew that to live authentically meant to reject the way society assigns, even if it cost him everything. Then, listen closely. The more intelligent you become, the more isolated you may feel. That is not failure. It is the price of awakening. You scare people not because you are unkind, but because you are unconditioned. And a man who cannot be conditioned cannot be controlled. And that is the greatest threat to any system built on manipulation, including romantic ones. Most people are not looking for love, they are looking for usefulness. They want you to serve a role: provider, performer, protector, puppet. But the intelligent man steps outside of those frames, and when he does, he becomes invisible to the ones still inside them. Kierkegaard called this the leap of faith, to leave the security of roles, systems, and superficial expectations, and walk alone, to love truth more than comfort, to choose despair if despair is honest, over bliss that is fake. And that leap will cost you, it will strip you, but it will also awaken you. Because once you see, once you truly see, you can never unsee. And your intelligence, if rooted in self-awareness and not just information, will turn you from a man who seeks validation into a man who seeks God, or meaning, or peace. And that is terrifying to others, and sometimes even to yourself. Because what comes next is not for the faint-hearted. Kierkegaard once said, "To dare is to lose one's footing momentarily. Not to dare is to lose oneself." And most men have already lost themselves, not because they lack intelligence, but because they've been trained to apologize for it. You were told to soften your words, to dim your insights, to pretend you don't see what's missing, smile when something's fake, laugh when something's shallow, stay silent when something's wrong. You were taught to be agreeable in order to be accepted, but acceptance that demands the death of your essence is not acceptance, it's assimilation. And the intelligent man who refuses to assimilate becomes a threat, not just to women, but to everyone who profits from his silence. You scare them, not because you are aggressive, but because you are precise. Because when you speak, your words carry weight. Because when you look at someone, they feel seen, not flattered, seen. And being seen is unbearable for those still wearing masks. Most people don't want connection, they want comfort. They want reinforcement of their illusions. But the intelligent man dismantles illusion wherever he goes, even in love, especially in love. Because love for him is not a game, is not a power play, is not a role play of unmet childhood wounds. For the intelligent man, love is truth. And truth doesn't always feel good. It feels real. That's why you feel resistance. That's why you're met with confusion, even hostility. Because your presence threatens the system that rewards performance. You don't beg, you don't chase, you don't explain yourself 10 times just to be understood. You walk away, not because you're angry, but because your soul refuses to be auctioned off to the highest bidder of convenience. And that kind of man, calm, grounded, inwardly sovereign, is more terrifying than any tyrant. Because he is not reacting, he is choosing. And choosing, authentically, consciously, is the greatest rebellion left in this world. You want to know why intelligent men scare modern women? It's not because women are shallow. It's not because they're malicious. It's because we live in a world where most people have been conditioned to expect performance, not presence. And the intelligent man cannot fake presence. He brings himself fully or not at all. And most are not ready for that kind of fullness. It's too raw, too unfiltered, too demanding of self-awareness. And most people, men and women alike, would rather stay comfortably asleep than wake up to their own contradictions. Kierkegaard's life was a testament to this paradox. He loved Regina Olsen, but he left her. Not because he didn't feel, but because he felt too much. He knew his path was solitary, that his inner world was too wide, too turbulent to anchor to anyone else. That's the paradox of the intelligent man. He longs for intimacy, but not at the cost of his integrity. He desires connection, but refuses to perform for it. He is willing to walk alone rather than dilute his essence just to be desired. That's not arrogance, that's alignment, and it terrifies people, because deep down, everyone wants to be chosen. But the intelligent man, he wants to be met, and being met requires the other to also be whole, to have gone through their own fires, to have unlearned their own lies. Most aren't ready for that, so they call you distant, difficult, cold. But the truth is, you're not cold. You're clear. You don't hate women. You just don't worship illusions. You don't hate love. You just refuse to call dependency love. You've seen too much to play blind, and that's what scares them. You're not manipulable. You're not predictable. You're not waiting to be told who to be. Kierkegaard said, "The most common form of despair is not being who you are. But you, if you're listening this far, you are different. You want to know who you are beyond the noise, beyond the roles, beyond the craving for approval. And that journey will cost you popularity. It will cost you comfort. It may even cost you love. But what you gain in return is far more powerful. Selfhood, sovereignty, sanity. You will stop searching for someone to complete you because you will no longer feel incomplete. And that, brother, is when you become truly dangerous. Not to others, but to the system that thrives on broken men. Because the deeper we go, the more everything starts to unravel. Especially the lies you've been told about what it means to be a man in the eyes of the world. Kierkegaard was not interested in success as society defines it. He wrote, "The greatest hazard of all, losing oneself, can occur very quietly in the world, as if it were nothing at all." And that is precisely what's happened to so many men. Quiet disappearance. Not physical, not loud, but spiritual. Men have lost themselves trying to be palatable, trying to be charming, trying to be whatever the room wanted, until one day they look in the mirror and see a stranger. But the intelligent man, he cannot pretend for long. The tension builds inside him. He starts to notice that what others call confidence is often arrogance, that what they call love is often dependency, that what they call chemistry is often trauma, speaking its native tongue. He starts to see. And once you see, you suffer. That's the price of awareness. You suffer because you no longer fit. You suffer because your questions ruin parties, because your clarity offends comfort, because your need for truth repels those addicted to performance. And this is where the Kierkegaardian paradox sets in. You either betray yourself to be accepted by the world, or you betray the world to remain true to yourself. Most men take the first path. It's easier. It's praised. But it's a slow death. The intelligent man, if he is brave, chooses the second, and in that choice he begins to live. Not comfortably, not safely, but honestly. And this honesty manifests in everything. How he speaks, how he dates, how he works, how he worships, how he walks away. And the world punishes that kind of man. because a man who cannot be seduced by the crowd becomes a mirror to everyone still trapped in it. Let's talk about relationships. Why does a woman feel uneasy around the intelligent man? Not because he doesn't care, but because he cares differently. He doesn't chase, he observes. He doesn't flatter, he listens. He doesn't respond to every emotional cue like a trained dog. He chooses his reactions with surgical precision. This makes him mysterious. And mystery terrifies people who need constant emotional reinforcement. The intelligent man is not absent, he's selectively present. And this selectivity feels like rejection to those used to being worshipped without effort. But he doesn't worship, he discerns. Because intelligence, when combined with emotional clarity, becomes spiritual X-ray vision. You see through smiles, through games, through flattery, and that kind of sight unnerves anyone still hiding. Kierkegaard spoke often about the individual's responsibility to become a self, not a social role, not a performer, not a mirror of other people's expectations, but a self. And becoming a self requires silence, stillness, reflection, solitude. 4 things modern culture is allergic to. Because a man who sits in silence too long might stop consuming, might stop conforming, might stop apologizing for who he is, and most terrifyingly, he might stop chasing what was never worthy of him in the first place. You want to terrify people? Walk into a room and don't seek attention. Just observe. Don't over-explain. Speak with precision. Set boundaries without raising your voice. Be kind without being compliant. Be romantic without being dependent. Watch what happens. Watch how people begin to adjust themselves in your presence. Because deep down, everyone senses when a man is rooted, and most don't know what to do with him, especially when he's not performing. That's the secret of intelligent men. They don't perform, and that's what makes them dangerous. Kierkegaard wrote, "Once you label me, you negate me." The intelligent man cannot be labeled. Is he cold? No, he's composed. Is he arrogant? No, he's self-respecting. Is he aloof? No, he's discerning. But labels are easier than reflection, so the world will reduce him to anything that makes his clarity feel less threatening. But don't let that shake you. Let it sharpen you. Let it deepen your solitude. Let it fortify your path. You were not built to be palatable. You were not made to beg. You were not designed to be everyone's comfort zone. You were made to become a man in the Kierkegaardian sense, aware, faithful to truth, willing to walk alone into the storm if that's what it takes to keep your soul intact. Then let's walk further into the storm. Kierkegaard warned us, the crowd is untruth, and yet most men still look to the crowd for validation. They measure their worth by how many hearts they can win, how many smiles they can spark, how many people clap when they speak. But that applause is a trap, because it teaches you to shape yourself according to what pleases others, not according to what is real within you. And here's the truth you weren't told. The more intelligent you become, the less applause you will receive, because you are no longer playing for the crowd, you are playing for your soul. And most people don't clap for that. They stare, they question, they shrink. You scare people not because you are cruel, but because you are clear. In a culture built on noise, your silence is disturbing. In a world built on stimulation, your stillness is unsettling. In an age of constant availability, your refusal to be emotionally summoned on command feels like rebellion. And it is. It's the rebellion of a man who has reclaimed his mind, his heart, and his attention. You don't owe anyone a reaction. You don't owe anyone your confusion. The intelligent man does not explain himself to those committed to misunderstanding him. Have you noticed how quickly people grow uneasy when you stop oversharing? When you start protecting your thoughts? When your eyes say more than your words? This is the energy of a man who is no longer trying to be understood by everyone. And that kind of man terrifies not just women, but society at large. Because society thrives when men are distracted, when they're addicted, when they're chasing. But the intelligent man doesn't chase, he chooses. And this choosing, the calm deliberation of a man who knows his worth, makes him unreadable, unplayable, untouchable. Kierkegaard called it the single individual, the man who has separated himself from the crowd, not in arrogance, but in authenticity. He walks alone, but not because he's antisocial. He walks alone because most paths lead to noise, and he wants truth. He wants depth. He wants God, in whatever form that takes for him. And here's the paradox. The more rooted you become in yourself, the more people will try to shake you. Not because you are wrong, but because you remind them of what they abandoned. Their depth, their integrity, their silence. In love, this is even more profound. The intelligent man doesn't romanticize chaos. He doesn't confuse unpredictability with passion. He is drawn to alignment, not excitement. He wants peace, not performance. And when he speaks of love, he speaks of something holy, not hormonal. That kind of desire, that sacred, quiet, unwavering presence, can be terrifying to a woman who has only known love as drama. It can feel cold, but it's not. It's steady. And steadiness is unfamiliar to people who are still addicted to the highs and lows of emotional instability. But you must not shrink. You must not soften your clarity to be more acceptable. You must not hide your intelligence to seem less intimidating. Your role is not to fit into the world's confusion, is to remain anchored in truth. And sometimes, truth walks alone. Kierkegaard lived in that solitude. He was mocked, ridiculed, misunderstood. He walked away from the love of his life, not because he didn't feel, but because he felt too much. Because he knew that his life's mission, his truth, could not coexist with the roles others wanted him to play. And that's your challenge now. Will you keep playing roles for comfort, or will you finally become the man you were meant to be, even if it means being feared, rejected, or alone? The intelligent man doesn't seek to be liked. He seeks to be aligned. And when you become aligned, truly aligned, the right people will recognize you. Not because you impressed them, but because your silence echoed something they forgot they had within themselves. So stop over-explaining, stop apologizing for your solitude. Stop doubting the strength of your vision. You are not too much. You are too real for a world that rewards imitation. And the more real you become, the lonelier it may feel, but the more powerful you will be. Because that power will not come from charm or wealth or image. It will come from your refusal to abandon yourself. You've come this far, so let's not stop now, because what's on the other side of this path, the one paved with clarity, solitude, and self-mastery, is not just strength, it's freedom. And Kierkegaard understood something few people ever grasp, that the price of true freedom is everything that once made you feel accepted. He wrote, "Anxiety is the dizziness of freedom." Because once a man stops outsourcing his identity, once he no longer seeks permission to be himself, he is hit with the terrifying realization that there is no map, no approval, no one to tell him he's on the right track. There is only him and God, and the abyss between them. That's why intelligent men scare the world, because they walk into the abyss with open eyes. They don't hide behind distractions. They don't numb themselves with entertainment. They don't flood their schedule just to avoid silence. They sit in it. They endure the unease. They feel the questions most men never dare to ask. Who am I without my work? Without my validation? Without someone clinging to me for emotional stability? Most men run from those questions. The intelligent man makes a home in them. And when he meets a woman, he doesn't seek to possess her. He doesn't want to fix her, control her, or impress her. He wants to see her. And that kind of seeing is rare. It pierces through vanity, through ego, through performance. It demands presence. It demands truth. And truth is a fire that most people fear, because it doesn't flatter, it doesn't negotiate, it simply is. And the intelligent man, when grounded in that truth, becomes a force that cannot be swayed by charm, nor broken by rejection. He is not cold, he is not harsh, he is simply whole. You want to understand why you're avoided, misread, even villainized? It's because you stop chasing shadows. And once you stop chasing shadows, those who live in them start to feel exposed. Your presence becomes a judgment, even when you say nothing. Your standards become an offense, even when you don't impose them. You have become a mirror, and most people hate mirrors that don't flatter. But your job is not to flatter. Your job is to reflect what's real, first within yourself, then in the world around you. Kierkegaard spoke of the knight of faith, a man who lives inwardly before he lives outwardly, a man who does not depend on logic alone, nor emotion alone, but on a deeper calling that cannot be explained to the masses. The knight of faith walks the earth unnoticed by most. He's not loud, he's not decorated in titles, he may not even look successful by the world's standards, but inside him burns a light that cannot be dimmed by trend, by rejection, or by loneliness. And And that's the man you're becoming. The one who is no longer seeking an identity, but embodying one. Let's be honest, it's not easy. You'll lose people, you'll question yourself, you'll face long nights where the silence is so loud it feels like a scream. You'll wonder if something's wrong with you because you can no longer enjoy the things that used to thrill you. You'll walk away from relationships that once felt like home, only to realize they were houses built on sand. But you'll also feel something new, a strange, unfamiliar peace. A stillness in your soul that doesn't come from being liked, but from being right with yourself. And that peace, that alignment, that deep, resonant integrity, that is worth everything you've lost. So no, you are not too quiet. You are not too deep. You are not too intense. You are not too much. You are becoming whole. And in a fragmented world, wholeness is terrifying because it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be seduced. It cannot be purchased. And above all, it cannot be ignored. You are not broken.